Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. We're happy to have former New York Governor George Pataki here in our studios with us. It's great to have you.
Good being with you, John.
All right, and good job in getting out of New York just in time for that Super Bowl.
I escaped in time.
Yes, and we're happy to have you here in Florida. It was kind of a bust in terms of a quality football game last night. For New York and New Jersey, though, to host an event of this size without any major issues, how proud were you to see the city pull it off like that?
First, it was a terrible game, and I was really disappointed because, like so many people, Peyton Manning has had a great career, and I was hoping he'd come through, and it just didn't happen. But congratulations to Seattle. But New York does this type of thing. We are capable of doing major events without missing a beat. And that's what happened with the Super Bowl. It was great to host it. I think it was good for the country to see a cold weather outdoor Super Bowl and nothing went wrong. I think hopefully we have set the bar so that it'll happen again and it won't all be domes or southern stadiums in the future.
It was great to see the Freedom Tower, kind of guarding, standing guardian over everything, and a sign of a wound there healing.
Yeah, we had a breakfast Friday before the Super Bowl with some of the NFL officials and owners in the building right across from the Freedom Tower. And you look down on the memorial, and then I'd look across at the tower, and I couldn't help but feel proud of everybody who worked to make that happen.
I have a friend who lives down in the West Village, and they just illuminated the spire, and he can see that now, and he was immensely proud of that as well. For today, though, I don't know who was more frustrated, Broncos fans or the American public, who were tuning into the Fox News interview with host Bill O'Reilly with the president. The issue of the IRS came up, and the president said there's not even a smidgen of corruption. How can he sit there and not answer these questions?
It's just an outrage. For him to blow it off as though nothing could have possibly happened. We know things did happen. We do know that a number of high IRS officials have taken the fifth about the targeting of conservative groups. And we know that it apparently, in my view, continues when you have groups like Friends of Abe in Hollywood.
And Dinesh D'Souza.
And Dinesh D'Souza.
And even on Friday, I was talking to Rick Unger, a liberal guy, and he was looking at these charges. He's a lawyer. He says that, they're scant at best. And because that movie was, so focused directly on the president, how can anybody say there can't be some sort of connection there? Even if there's an appearance, he needs to address it, right?
Yeah, at the very least, you say, I understand the concerns. We're going to make sure there's a complete investigation. To blow it off and pretend nothing happened, it's just wrong, and it's a disservice to the American people. But it's what, unfortunately, I fear those of us who disagree with his political agenda have come to expect from him. He just dismisses criticism, dismisses alternative approaches to the problems this country faces, and I think it's really beneath the office of presidency to do that.
Yeah, and that was also kind of reflected in the State of the Union speech. Back to the Super Bowl, it was a great event. There were some minor complaints from New Yorkers and people in New Jersey about traffic, but there were also some talk about the traffic issue still with Governor Christie. Are we still going to be talking about this 1 year from today?
I don't think we will be. And I think that it is a horrific thing what happened. Tens of thousands of people in New Jersey and New York. I cross the George Washington Bridge almost every day. It's the most important bridge in the country. It is horrific what was done for political motives. And those who were responsible, I'm sure, will be held accountable. An investigation is underway. Like everyone else, I have no idea what Governor Christie did or did not know, but I think a year from now, that'll be clear. And at that point, either the governor will have been exonerated and in a position to run or not, in which case we won't be talking about it anymore.
There was some recent polling data that showed, right after this that, when compared directly with Hillary Clinton, Christie didn't stack up so well. Do you still consider him a serious contender for 2016?
He's been hurt by this. There's no question about it.
But is it temporary more than long term?
It depends on what it turns out to be the case. If, in fact, others in his administration or the governor himself were aware that this was going on, then I don't think I'm sure he cannot run for president because he was very unequivocal in his press conference. If it turns out that there were people in his staff who did this as a rogue matter, then I think he's been hurt, but I think it's survivable. We just have to wait and see over the next few weeks what happens. But clearly, someone who had been the front runner has been damaged severely, and we have to take a look. But the good thing is that the Republican Party has many governors, many former governors, many members of Congress and leaders, and I don't think there'll be a dearth of talent out there in 2016 for the Republic.
All right, we got another question coming up on that, and I'll ask you to get specific on some of those governors, but let's talk about current New York Governor Cuomo. Of course, he caught a lot of flack for some of the things that he said about conservatives, and perhaps rightly so, but then Mayor de Blasio doubled down on those comments, and he's really taken this ultra-liberal tact. Do you think his attitude puts New York at risk financially, because it's such a, it's the capital of the universe financially? Yes,
I think it does have an impact on those who make the decision where to locate thousands of jobs, particularly in the financial industry, decide to grow or expand when they make their decisions. But there's something bigger than this. I really think the Democratic Party has shifted left of where it had traditionally been. I remember Bill Clinton saying the era of big government is over. With Barack Obama, with Bill de Blasio, with Elizabeth Warren, and so many others, the Democratic Party now calls itself progressive, which I would call left. They're no longer liberal. And so I don't think de Blasio is a blip on the radar. I think he is a harbinger of what the Democratic Party is becoming, which is, we know best. We're going to tell you how to live your lives, despite the fact that for 200 years America did well with the government being the servant of the people. Now we're going to be your master. We saw it with Obamacare. We see it with de Blasio, and I fear we're seeing it more and more from Democrats.
I heard an interesting comparison. Someone said liberals are like drug addicts, chasing a high. They didn't get it from Obama. They thought they were going to get it. Now it's Elizabeth Warren and Bill de Blasio.
I think it's more about control. They think they are smarter, better, and know how we should live our lives. And they want to dictate to the American people whether it's how every single American gets health care or how much economic success they can have. This is the new Democratic Party. It is not something that has been a part of the American political dialogue, I don't think, in history. And it's one of the reasons I'm so incredibly motivated to see that there's political change beginning at the local level, but certainly in Washington, to restore the government to the people.
Now, all that you just said may very well be true, but we're still looking as Hillary Clinton right now being kind of the name that dominates and hangs over, the big shadow over everything in 2016. Do you think she's beatable in 2016?
Oh, sure, she's
and if
beatable.
So, how?
Absolutely, she's beatable. Anyone is beatable. She has great name ID. But I think you look at her record as Secretary of State, you look at her comments on Benghazi, and one of the things most troubling to me was Secretary of Defense Gates' not quotation, but recitation of when he was sitting with Obama and Hillary, and she was acknowledging that she opposed the surge in Iraq solely to help her political career. That is wrong. I mean, my son was a Marine lieutenant in Iraq at that time during the surge, and to think that she was thinking more of how she's going to do in a primary than the fate of those brave Americans putting their lives on the line to help protect our country is just wrong. And so I think on that, but more importantly on the big issues, I think the defining issue for 2016 is going to be the nature of America. Are we a country, as we've been so successfully, where people are free to live their own lives and make their own decisions? Or do we have to abrogate that to a group of elites in Washington who know better than us and who know how to make the decisions and tell us how to live our lives? I think the American people don't believe that. We have that temporarily with Obama. I think it would continue if the Democrats win again in 2016, which is why, as I said, I'm so fired up to help whoever our nominee is, because we have got to take this country back and give it back to the people and take away from the power elites in Washington.
I know there's a long time, but the one name right now, who is the answer to combat Hillary Clinton?
Oh, I don't think there's one name right now. I think there's a lot of good, capable people out there. There are a number who are obviously very interested in running. I think there are many who we haven't even thought about, who might decide that this is important enough and they have the ability to enter and try to take the country back.
If there's a 1A, a 1B, and a 1C.
I know you're trying to get me to answer the question, and I'm not going to do it. I just think it's way too soon. And I think the Republican Party made a mistake the last time, and the so-called establishment getting behind one candidate early. Let's see who has the vision, who has the tenacity, and the ability to give us the best chance to win.
How about yourself? Have you closed the door?
I learned early on in politics to never say never. I love the private sector. I'm having a tremendous time. But when I turn on the TV or go on the internet or read a newspaper, like so many Americans, they just go, my God, what is happening to this country that I love?
And what's, I hate to generalize, but what's the one issue that when you read the paper that, kind of gets you upset the most, that really kind of makes you think, I still got something left to do?
The arrogance of our government. The fact that this government, it's a handful of people who I wouldn't hire for my firm because I don't have the confidence in their ability, who generally have no private sector experience, who come out of either academia or not-for-profits or been politicians their whole lives, think somehow they have the ability to tell us how to live our life. It is just mind-boggling to me that mediocre people with enormous power want to use that power to dictate to us what we have to do. And I mean, I know that's not a smoking gun, like the deficit, which is awful, raising taxes, which is awful,
but you see that reflected,
Obamacare, which is awful.
It's clearly goes along with the popularity of a guy like Rand Paul.
Yeah.
You know, and that whole libertarian wing. Interesting. We'll see how that progresses, because I doubt you're the only one who feels that way, especially in the party. George Pataki, so glad to have you here with us.
Good being with you, Joe.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.